We spend so much of our lives trying to become someone successful, someone admired, someone loved. But rarely do we ask, someone according to who? Carl Jung believed that most people don't live as themselves. They live as projections, as roles, as reflections of what the world told them they should be. From a young age, we're taught to fit in, to please, to perform, and so we begin to wear a mask, what Jung called the persona. It's the version of us that meets the expectations of family, society, and culture. But behind that mask is something deeper, something more real. Your true self. Jung called the journey to that self-individuation the process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not ideal, but whole. It's not about adding more. It's about returning to what's already within you. The forgotten dreams, the silent wisdom, the quiet truth you buried to belong. Finding your true self begins with honesty. Honesty about what feels real and what feels forced, what energizes you and what drains you, who you are when no one is watching. You start to notice when you're performing. You feel the discomfort of pretending, and you begin to shed what isn't yours. This isn't an overnight awakening. It's a slow unraveling, but each layer you peel back brings you closer. Closer to your voice, closer to your purpose, closer to peace. And the most beautiful part? Your true self was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to stop being who you were told to be and start becoming who you truly are. The true self doesn't shout. It doesn't demand to be seen. It waits, quietly, beneath the noise of who you think you're supposed to be. Carl Jung taught that the self is not something we create. It's something we uncover. It lives beneath the persona, the mask we wear to survive, to be accepted, to be praised. Yet, the persona is not the enemy. It served a purpose. It guided you through, kept you safe in spaces where your truth felt unwelcome. However, there comes a time when the mask grows heavy, when the divide between who you appear to be and who you truly are causes suffering. Jung believed suffering isn't a mark of weakness. It's a signal that a part of you is ready to emerge. A part that's tired of acting, ready to be whole. To discover your true self, you must turn inward. Question inherited beliefs. Ask, does this value belong to me or was it handed down? You stop seeking applause, start following your inner compass, one that may not always align with others' expectations. You might outgrow relationships, switch paths, and yes, disappoint others. But there's an immense peace in aligning with your essence. There's no peace like being truly you. Finding your true self isn't about escaping who you've been. It's about integrating every version of you, the one who survived, the one who adapted, and the one who's finally ready to live. Carl Jung believed that true transformation comes through integration. This doesn't mean cutting parts of yourself off, but rather welcoming them in. The shadow, the wounds, and the emotions you were told were too much. They are not your enemies. Instead, they are clues. Clues to areas where you lost touch with your authenticity, to places you disconnected from just to stay safe. Now, these parts are knocking not to disrupt your life, but to help you reunite with yourself. Jung called this confrontation the shadow. Everything within you that you've disowned. Your anger, your insecurity, your shame, but also your brilliance, your wildness, and your truth. Ignoring your shadow gives it control, making it show up in projections, relationships, and emotional patterns that repeat endlessly. Yet, when you face it with honesty and compassion, it becomes your greatest teacher. You'll realize you're not broken or too sensitive, nor are you lost. You've simply been divided between the self you show the world and the one yearning to be free. The journey Jung invites us on is not toward perfection, but toward wholeness. Not toward performance, but toward presence. Your true self isn't found outside, but awakened by turning inward. There's a moment on the path to your true self when everything starts to feel unfamiliar. You begin to detach from old roles, but haven't fully stepped into the new. This space feels uncomfortable, but it's sacred. Carl Jung referred to this as the liminal space, the threshold between who you were and who you're becoming. It's the void, the in-between, the quiet before the clarity. Most people rush through this part. They fill it with distractions, rebound identities, or quick answers. But if you can sit with it, something powerful begins to unfold. You start to notice your real voice, soft, steady, different from the noise you've always followed. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand. It simply knows, You realize that finding your true self means losing the version of you built entirely for others. The version that said yes when you meant no. That laughed to keep the peace. That stayed quiet to be liked. Now you begin to choose differently. You say no without guilt. You walk away from conversations that drain your spirit. You don't explain your evolution, you embody it. Jung believed that individuation, the journey to the true self, isn't about becoming something new. It's about remembering what's always been there, beneath the layers of programming and protection. You weren't born to play a role. You were born to live in truth. And that truth doesn't need validation to be real. So, as old habits fall away and old relationships shift, don't resist. That's a sign of alignment. Not everyone will understand your path, but your soul will. And that's the voice you follow now. Not the loudest voice, not the most familiar one, but the one that feels like home. As you move closer to your true self, something shifts. You begin to crave simplicity over noise, depth over attention, stillness over performance. Carl Jung believed that the authentic self lives beneath the ego, and the ego, while necessary, often builds its identity on comparison, validation, and control. It wants to be admired. It wants to win. It wants to prove. But the true self doesn't want anything. It just wants to be. And the more you detach from the ego's need for approval, the more peace you feel. You stop arguing with people who misunderstand you. You stop trying to convince others to like you. You stop chasing the next achievement to feel worthy. Because worth is no longer a reward, it's a recognition. Jung said that neurosis is often the result of a conflict between the ego and the self. When who you are inside is misaligned with the life you're living outside, your body and mind begin to resist. Anxiety, exhaustion, emptiness, not signs of failure, but signals from the soul, telling you to come home. You realize that healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about reconnecting with what's true. And that truth doesn't live in your job title, your social media feed, or anyone else's opinion. It lives in the quiet yes that rises in your chest when something feels right. In the still confidence of knowing who you are, even if no one claps for it. This is where you stop performing your life and start living it. Not for applause, not for validation, but because alignment with your true self is the only kind of freedom that lasts. Your true self isn't in the future. It's not something you become after achieving, healing, or proving yourself. It's already here, buried beneath the noise, the roles, and the stories you've outgrown. Carl Jung believed that the path to wholeness was not linear. It spirals. You return to the same patterns, the same lessons, again and again. Not because you're failing, but because you're deepening your awareness each time. Finding your true self doesn't mean you'll never struggle. It means you struggle differently. You don't get lost in the pain. You look into it. You don't avoid discomfort. You let it guide you. Now, your triggers are teachers. Your doubts become mirrors. Every challenge becomes a chance to choose your truth instead of your conditioning. This is what Jung called individuation. Not a goal to reach, but a lifelong process of becoming conscious, becoming honest, becoming whole. And as you go deeper, the things that used to define you begin to fall away. The titles, the image, the need to be right, the fear of being alone. Because when you connect with your true self, you realize you were never alone. You had simply abandoned your own presence. Now you return to it, not with force, but with softness. Not with perfection, but with patience. You begin to live from the inside out. Your boundaries reflect your self-respect. Your choices reflect your inner values. And your peace no longer depends on anything outside of you. That's the power of finding your true self. You don't have to chase life. You attract what aligns. You don't have to perform love. You embody it. And in that space, you finally feel what you were searching for all along. Yourself. When you live from your true self, life stops feeling like a performance and starts feeling like a conversation. You don't force outcomes, you respond to them. You don't chase people, you connect with those who already resonate with your truth. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious mind holds the keys to who we really are. And the more we bring that unconscious into the light, the more empowered we become. Empowered not in the external world, but internally. Calm, centered, and clear. You stop needing to be understood by everyone. You stop trying to fit into spaces that can't hold your depth. You stop fearing change, because change is no longer the enemy of stability. It's the pathway to authenticity. Each time you choose alignment over approval, the ego loses its grip. Each time you honor your inner knowing, the self becomes stronger. This is the quiet revolution that Jung spoke of, where the battle isn't out there, but within. And the reward isn't applause. It's inner peace. You'll still be tested. You'll still encounter doubt. But now, you know where to return. To the grounded place inside you that doesn't move with opinions, titles, or trends. To the space that listens more than it reacts. To the self that existed before the world told you who to be. This is your compass now. Not your past, not your fear, but the deeper truth that rises in stillness. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that's the work, not to be liked, not to be right, but to be real. Because the real you doesn't need fixing, just remembering. As you walk the path back to your true self, the noise begins to fade. Not because the world becomes quieter, but because you stop giving it so much power. Carl Jung taught that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. And when your inner world is in chaos, the outside feels overwhelming. But when you find inner stillness, the outside no longer controls you. It simply passes through. You learn to sit with your emotions rather than escape them. You learn to ask, what is this feeling trying to teach me? You no longer react impulsively. You respond with awareness. This is what it means to be conscious. Not perfect, not above others, but deeply rooted in your own presence. The more you live this way, the more you notice what doesn't align. You stop forcing connections. You stop watering dead plants. You stop betraying your intuition just to feel accepted. You choose peace over people-pleasing, silence over shallow validation, and authenticity over approval. It's not that life gets easier. It's that you're no longer playing a role in your own suffering. You stop asking, what do they think of me? And start asking, what do I think of me? This shift changes everything. Because now, your sense of worth isn't rented out. It's anchored. Jung said, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. And now you finally can. You don't just know more, you see more. You see through manipulation. You see through your own old patterns. And most importantly, you see yourself, not as an image, but as something alive and whole. That's the difference between existing and truly living. There's a peace that comes when you finally stop running. Running from your past, running from discomfort, running from the parts of yourself you were taught to hide. Carl Jung believed that the true self isn't found in the light alone. It's found in the integration of everything. Your wounds, your wisdom, your fear, your strength. When you stop dividing yourself into good and bad, worthy and unworthy, you begin to see what you really are. Whole, not flawless, but real. Not perfect, but present. You become someone who no longer needs the world's approval to feel valid. You move through life with quiet confidence. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've stopped abandoning the one asking the right questions, yourself. This is the work Jung invites us to do. Not to escape life, but to meet it more honestly. Not to impress others, but to live in alignment. Not to chase an image, but to embody your essence. And the beauty is, you don't need to go out and find your true self. You just need to remove what was never truly you. The fear, the masks, the noise. Because the self isn't something distant. It's already here, waiting for your attention, your courage, and your love. So take the next step, not outward, but inward. That's where the clarity lives. That's where the freedom begins. And if this message resonated, if you're walking your own path back to yourself, subscribe to Wisdom Seeker. We explore the thinkers, the truths, and the transformations that help you come home to who you really are. Because in a world that tells you to be everything, there's power in remembering that being yourself is more than enough.